So yeah, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about something very important, chapter structure and development, something that I think every chapter is kind of learning to deal with as through this like virtual time. And if you can't hear me at any time, just go ahead and let me know. So for our past webinars, we've talked about registration, recruitment, social media, and our last webinar will actually be next Wednesday. We're going to be talking with the National Student Leadership Council and College Advisory Council. These students they apply to be above these boards, and so they have a lot of experience when it comes to SADD. So they're going to be sharing us their tips and tricks to a successful chapter in the virtual world. You can find all these resources and webinars on our Back to School Survival Guide. It's found in the portal. You can ask your state coordinator as well to send you a link to this survival guide. So before we begin, I think it's always important to remember for us to take a breath, just because I think we've been on go, go, go since the beginning of the semester, even since summer, really preparing for the year. And I think there's just a lot of things for us that it's important to acknowledge. Number one being that this year has been difficult, not only on students, but also teachers, parents, community members, folks of every different type of identity have been going through this pretty difficultly. This has affected everyone. So I think it's important that you not compare yourself to any other SADD years in the past, and because each year is different and each year has its own challenges. You're a success just by not giving up and still trying to connect with students and trying to make things happen with your chapter. So one thing I want to start with is a little check-in question. If you can type in the chat, what's one or two things that keeps you inspired and grounded in the work that you do for your SADD chapters? So go ahead and type something up in the chat. This can be anything really that keeps you wanting to do the work that you do. And if at the moment you don't feel like sharing, that's okay. I encourage you to continue to just think about the answer to this question. So I see Cindy says, knowing that students are eager to get back, that's very true. I think a lot of students, from our experience when we've talked to them, they want to be involved in SADD. They want something to do. They want to feel like there's something that they can control. So thank you for that response. Students that are willing to show up even through Zoom, that's very true too. I know we have a lot of Zoom fatigue, but there are opportunities to create connections through Zoom. And I know personally, even I've attended some virtual classes regularly since quarantine started, and I've made some pretty good connections despite it being via a virtual platform. So thank you for sharing a little bit of your inspirations. If you are still thinking about it, I encourage you to carry that with you throughout our presentation. All right, so so we're just going to start giving you a little bit of tools to help structure your chapter. One of them are trying to schedule meetings. So scheduling meetings can be super difficult, but it's really important to get a consistent meeting schedule for regular attendance. So we have two tools that we particularly use. One is whentomeet.com. The other is Doodle. I know sometimes learning new technologies can be a little challenging. Would you all like me to kind of show an example of how to use this? If so, you can just type yes in the chat, or you can give me like a reaction thumbs up. If not, I can just leave these links for you. I'll go ahead and type them so you have them available. So the first one is whentomeet.com and doodle.com. So I particularly think that When2Meet is very easy to use. You just choose the times that you want to be available for a meeting, and then you send the link to participants, and the participants select which meeting times work best for them. That way you can, I've heard a lot of advisors say, oh, it's hard to find a meeting schedule or meeting time. This is a really good tool to see when people are available every week. Yeah, Doodle is a little bit more, I think it's a little bit more, not necessarily complicated, but you need to log in, create an account and whatnot, versus When2Meet, which just necessitates a link to fill out the schedule. Okay, some other tools. So I think one of the bread and butter for student organizing and student development is trying to create bonds between students. And despite it being virtual, I think that introduces a new challenge when it comes to engaging students online. So one of the bread and butter tools that we use in person are icebreakers. So if you feel free to enter in the chat why you think we need things like icebreakers and check-in questions. So feel free to type that in while I continue with my presentation. So we're going to go over some examples of icebreakers that you continue to use in your meetings. So in case you're thinking about it, why are icebreakers and check-in questions so important? Icebreakers and check-in questions are really important to help form bonds for students, to help them feel connected, to help them realize that they have common interests, common goals. And it's also just to help, like in its namesake, break the ice. So that's really pretty important to help people feel a little bit more comfortable, whether that is through a silly question about their day, asking them how their day went, how they felt today, anything that bothered them today, or something silly like what is their favorite ice cream, or if they were a fruit, what kind of fruit would they be? So I'll go ahead and link this in the chat as well. This is a really great example of icebreakers that you can use, icebreaker questions rather. Hi Cheryl, welcome. We're just going over some icebreakers examples that you can use for your meetings. So this link up here has a huge list of check-in questions that you can use at the beginning of each meeting, just to break the ice. It's great as well as a buffer for when students are still trickling into meetings. So I think these are really important because I think one thing that we've noticed in Zoom meetings, and we particularly have noticed as well, is that there is less propensity to participate in conversation via Zoom meetings versus in-person meetings. People are more likely to stay muted or even stay off camera, which it's all fine and dandy. We're just, I think, have different social norms over Zoom. At the same time, we want to encourage participation in our meetings. So icebreakers, even having people type in their question. Maybe they're just tired of being on camera all day. They just want to type in their answers. That's totally fine too. If you don't want to be the one to always make icebreakers, you can invite other students or other team members beforehand. Hey, can you prepare an icebreaker question for the day? And they could be the one to do so. All right. So other things that we talked about how to schedule meetings, just to do a little quick review for the folks that just joined us. Thanks for lagging. We talked about how to schedule meetings, so you can use these two links. Really easy to schedule meetings: when2meet.com and doodle.com. The first link is a lot easier to use to figure out with your other students when's the best time to meet, rather than emailing back and forth. Oh, I'm free this time. You're free this time. I'm free this time. This can make it a lot easier for folks to find these. Okay, so now we're going to go into some particular icebreakers that you can do through the Zoom itself, other than checking questions. So these are really good to help for students to get to know one another. The first one is an oldie but a goodie: 2 truths and a lie. So you can have a student share 3 statements about themselves. 2 must be true, and the other must be a lie. And then the group's got to figure out which one is a lie. So I think it's really familiar, but the only thing is this one can be participated through Zoom, through the chat function. Like for example, I can state, I'll do 3 statements. The first one's I was born in Washington. The second one is I'm an avid freestyle dancer. The third one is I work for SADD. So then the chat will have to discover, okay, which one of these is the truth, which one of these is a lie. Feel free to type it in the chat if you want to figure out which one is the truth and which one is the lie. I'll share what my actual lie is maybe later towards this presentation. Okay, another fun icebreaker that you can do is true facts. So this one is pretty simple as well. So everyone will just message, for example, maybe I'm the host. Everyone will message me like a secret fact about themselves that they're willing to like share anonymously. and then have it revealed later. So I have someone respond to me, which one is a lie? That is true. I was not born in Washington. Kudos to Cheryl for figuring that out. So yes, I am a employee of SADD, which you all probably know, and I am an avid freestyle dancer. Um, so thank you for participating. I appreciate that. And yeah, now we feel like a little more connected. So imagine if you have your entire group of however many students participate. So yeah, like I said, with True Facts, this one's a lot of fun too. Everyone would message me like something about themselves, one by one. Then I would one by one talk about each statement, and then the group has to figure out whose statement it belongs to. So I think this is a really good way for students to kind of share things about themselves that people might not know. It's really great to get people to start talking. And I think, again, with these icebreakers, we want to encourage dialogue because it's so hard to get people to talk via Zoom. But if people are chatting and messaging and talking, that is such a great foundation for having a strong club this year, which is just being connected. So I really recommend trying one of these at your next student meeting, even if it's just 2 or 3 students. Like this could be pretty fun. So some other things, if you want to delve a little deeper, maybe these are the type of icebreakers you can delegate to the other students, where you actually utilize the virtual space that we have. One of them is the example is comedy board. So you can assign a student the role of comedian. Their goal is to kind of change their screen background to something that'll make the group laugh, and whoever laughs is out. So, people can kind of be funny with the memes that they've tried to produce. Like, this is my response when I saw quarantine happening. I was just pretty surprised, and whoever laughs is the one that's it. And you can kind of rotate comedians back and forth. Other things you can do is reverse charades. So this one's pretty fun too. So one person is going to be it while everyone's going to act out a word. So you can have the person that's it close their eyes, and then you show what that word is that you want people to act out. It's kind of like headbands if you ever played it on your iPhone. So everyone is going to try to act out that word, and the person that's it will try to guess, and then you can rotate with different people to guess what those words are. And so these are things that you can assign to your students to do. And these are just, like, again, fun little ways for students to feel more connected, for students to feel like they're participating and they're not just sitting down and opening a computer and listening, because I feel like sometimes that's what happens in Zoom meetings. Other fun icebreakers to utilize virtual space, you can play this game called Guess What, where students, you assign a question master to answer a question just answer any sort of question, and the rest of the group has to change their virtual background to answer that question. This one can be a little tricky because not all students know how to change their virtual backgrounds or have the capacity to, depending on the technology. So this one I would definitely, I tried it one time at one of our state SADD meetings, and it was like mixed results. Like, half of the students participating, other half did not. So this one is a little bit more tricky. But the last one you can do is simply home scavenger hunt, retrieving household items, breaking them as fast as you can. Just have a laundry list. Ways to get people active and ways to get people involved. Again, back to the why we have the icebreakers, it's just to connect, to have people be more vulnerable, have people share, and whatnot. So, and let me know if you have any more questions in the chat. If you want to go level 3 with virtual icebreakers, I apologize if you hear some cars passing by. I'm outdoor at a little coffee shop area. But here's some really great virtual icebreakers. The ones that are free are Among Us and COVIDopoly. So Among Us has gotten really popular. I don't know if you've heard about it in the past couple weeks. It's pretty much like Mafia, where you have to find the imposter, but you do it through your phone and technology. So this is something that you can play in the beginning of the game. COVIDopoly, it's like Monopoly Deal, if you've ever played Monopoly Deal, except it's COVID inspired. Again, really fun. These are really great if you have small groups of students. So maybe your officer team or maybe your SADD group is like pretty small, and you don't have like too many students. So this could be for internal events when you do planning or when you do regular meetings. And then one other set of games you can play is Jackbox.tv. It's really fun. This one you do have to pay to purchase the set of games, but I can attest they're very, very fun. If you buy it for your group of students, I'm sure that you can even use it when you play with family and whatnot. So it's a lot of fun games where people, all they need to do is like a smartphone to participate. And then, you know, you can participate, share screen via your computer. But anyways, I feel like I've given like a pretty wide variety of different types of games that people can play, icebreakers to help, again, break the ice. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions on any of these. These are all located in our Back to SADD survival guide, where they are a little bit more in depth, as well as there's some more links on other icebreakers in case you run out or you've gone through these. Yeah, like I said, check the Back to School survival guide, or ask your state SADD coordinator as well. For example, those in California, if you want me to come help facilitate, you know, I would be so happy to help facilitate an icebreaker, jump in on one of your meetings and just help observe and facilitate, even just to be there to watch too. That's something that that each SADD coordinator is willing and wants to do, is to help connect to the students that they have there. So if you're unsure on how to do any of these, invite your SADD coordinator or someone on your team to jump on, and they'd be happy to help you. Okay, now we're gonna go into some in-meeting tools. So really have to choose a platform that works best for you. I'm not gonna go into this too much because the SLC is gonna go into it next week. But a great thing to do is utilizing the in-app features to maximize engagement with your students. You can utilize other programs when applicable. Some of those are like Pear Deck or Jamboard to encourage your students to use these tools too. So you don't have to be the one that's like the gatekeeper on preparing slides or preparing presentations. Encourage the rest of your leadership to kind of take on bigger roles. I'll do it. Just kidding. I can't because I'm logged into Zoom twice. I was going to do an example of the polling feature on Zoom, but I can't do it because I've logged into the same Zoom on 2 different devices. So that's another thing you never really know with technology. So sometimes you just gotta be flexible and move forward. All right, so we're gonna talk about planning meetings. So I know we're in like the first couple months of the school year, but because of how COVID is gone, a lot of us are still in that beginning stages, and there's no reason why we can't go back to this very foundational aspect of student organizing and student development. So we're gonna go on a road trip together, and what I mean by that is we're gonna talk about our issues, vision, mission, and core values. And through the analogy of a road trip, we're gonna kind of talk about how these all tie together. So we're going to start with the issues. So why start with the issues when it comes to the beginning of your team and planning meetings? Students will really resonate with issues that are currently affecting them. Issues are kind of like, if you think about, I guess for lack of a better analogy, if you think of like migration, people migrate for specific reasons. They move from one place to another for specific push and pull reasons. So the issues that are going on with your students are kind of the things that will drive them to move forward, things that will drive them to move, and it gives you and your student group a reason. So how do you go about to figuring out these issues? First of all, reviewing community agreements with your team to encourage like a safe space, to encourage people to speak. Assure them that they're not going to be reprimanded for sharing, and really encourage the dialogue for open discussion. You can utilize the Zoom breakout room feature, and I'm happy to go over that with you specifically on another time. Breakout rooms are really, I think, work really great to if you've used them during your classes, or if you've participated in them in class. It's great to take like a group of 10, break them up into groups of 2 where they can really speak one another. I think students, I know I particularly feel a little bit, not necessarily more comfortable, but I'm more prompted to speak when I'm in a smaller group. You can even use Google Slides or a Jamboard to encourage students to participate. And maybe the question is, all right, why don't you talk about the problems that you see involving our community, and put all those problems on this Google slide. And so at the end of this question, you have like a slide deck of like 5 different slides with student groups who are saying, hey, this is what's going on, and you can kind of talk about it at the end of this question. So again, starting with the issues kind of inspire us to move. They inspire us to move towards something, right? What is that something? So here's an example of some of the issues that we can talk about. So maybe I did this with a group of students, and they talked about, hey, we see mental health and bullying, we see vaping as an issue, we see drinking and driving as an issue, we see smoking and driving as an issue, and texting and roving. Sorry, a little misspell there. But this is just an example of some stuff that people could be talking about, of the issues that will inspire students to move. So in the next part of our road trip, we know why we want to go. Now let's talk about where we're going to go. So the vision is the destination of your road trip. So the issues inspire you to move, then the vision really is the place that you want to go to. Your vision as a student chapter, as a group, should really be informed by the issues that the group talked about. So again, this is like a very great activity to do with your small team, or with your larger SADD group if you want to. How can you talk about the vision, or how can you really collectively come up with a vision? You can ask the students to break out into groups, again using a breakout room, and ask them to create a vision board of their ideal club or student community. Give them something to aspire to. I think some really great guiding questions could be, what could this club look like at the end of the year? Because we don't know what's going to happen next year, if we're going to go from in-person or we're going to go back to in-person. So I think it's really good to talk about our vision, maybe like by the end of your senior year, or by the end of this year, to give them like a sort of timeline that they can look at. Other great guiding questions that you can use for them to talk about their vision is, what does a successful year feel like? Or who is included when we talk about our SADD club? Who do we want to include? So what could an example vision board could look like? So maybe you break your students into groups, and this is an example vision board that one of the groups come with. So they see people really taking care of their safety. They're rocking their seatbelt. They see an inclusive community that makes sure that every voice is included, not just people who are totally against destructive decisions, but they really want to impact those that are at risk of making destructive decisions. They want to see a really cohesive community together. They want to see people saying no to negative peer pressure and really inspiring positive peer pressure. They want to see a student community that has great mental health balance, that they have resources that they can turn to for their mental health, that they talk about things like resilience, mental health awareness, talking about being mindful. And then last one, maybe they want to see their screen time low. Maybe they notice that, I know personally, sometimes I see my screen time on my phone and computer, and I'm like, wow, I'm spending this much time on my computer or on my devices, and this much time sleeping. Like, how much time am I spending outside of my devices? So maybe a vision could be to have a screen time below a certain amount. So this is an example of what your students can make, and this doesn't really take that much effort. Just prop up a Google Slides, share it to your students, and then trust that they can kind of construct this together with simple copy paste. All right. So moving on from your issues, which are the problems inspired to move, the vision, which is the destination. Now, once you get the destination, you put that into Google Maps and you get your route. And sometimes you get different routes that you want to go to. So the mission is the details of your route and how to get there. The mission will inform what kind of programs, campaigns, and events that you'll hold. So after you've talked about your vision, your issue and your vision with your group, then talk about the mission, which is how you're going to get there. So guiding questions: how do we get closer to our vision by the end of the year or by the end of the semester? So I think that's really important to come up with a statement of how you're going to get there. Other guiding questions could be, well, how many events do we want to do a month, or how many meetings do we want to have? Another great question is, well, what national campaigns or resources do we have available? Because we as SADD National and your state SADD coordinators do have resources available for you to help you construct those events, programs, and campaigns. And then the last thing that we want to include is your values. So the core values in this analogy of a road trip, they're like the vehicle that helps you stay on your mission to get to your vision. So values really are kind of like they're your car essentially. They're how you get to your vision, how you accomplish your mission. They're kind of what keeps you on the road. So how do you go about getting the core values? Simply ask your students, what are the things the SADD or your club stand for? Some things that we hear often are SADD stands for inclusion, SADD stands for community, SADD stands for connection. That might be different for your school. So I encourage you to ask your students or ask your SADD team what those are. And I think including all of these in maybe a single meeting could be really doable. Maybe you have an hour to talk about icebreaker, vision, mission, core values. And then you can follow up that next meeting with, well, now what sort of events do we want to do? So here's an example set of core mission and vision and core values, just for you all to get like a sense of how to construct one. So these are, I think I need to zoom in a little bit because it is a little, oops, it is a little blurred. It is a little small. Well, it's not going to let me zoom in, but that's okay. I'll read it for y'all. So our vision for SADD is SADD envisions a world in which young people make positive decisions that advance their health and safety. So you can find our mission and vision and core values on SADD.org if you go under the About section. But it's a pretty simple statement. So we envision young folks making good decisions for the health and safety. So that's the destination. Our mission, on the other hand, is to empower young people to successfully confront the risks and pressures that challenge them throughout their daily lives. So though that mission is kind of what informs us on how we're getting to our vision. So we want to provide things that help empower young people. We want to provide programs, events, campaigns, and spaces for them to confront those sort of pressures. Now, lastly, we're going to talk about some of our core values. So core values, this is what helps us stay on the road. So I'm not going to read all of these. I'm going to kind of just bullet them. So our core values is SADD being an inclusive organization, SADD being respectful organization and affirming, SADD believing that young people's health and safety is improved through peer-to-peer interactions. So that peer-to-peer interactions is really, really important. Like one of the things that SADD said when it was founded, the students said, if the problem is mine, then the solution also lies with me. So us believing that the students are the ones experiencing these problems, so the students are the ones that can drive the solution, and that we as like adults or as advisors are there to help facilitate that space. And lastly, we promote broad understanding of the risks facing youth and the importance of reinforcing protective factors. So that's us providing like clear programs that are backed up by science. We're not just throwing programs in for the sake of throwing them in. So that's an example of like our mission, vision, and core values. Maybe for you, your core values are inclusion, are respect, are making the decisions, and that's really for your chapter to decide like what are the things that really resonate with the group of students that you have, or the group of peers that you have. So here's an example of, when you've developed your mission, what is the route? What are the specific things for you to get there? So these are things that SADD National has developed. We have our Text Less with More program, which addresses distracted driving. So again, that goes back to our mission to empower youth, and it goes back to our vision of, hey, looking for youth to make good decisions for their health and safety. We have Rock the Belt, which happens to deal with like traffic safety, because traffic incidents are the #1 killers for teens currently still. We have our Is It Worth the Risk campaign, which really helps you decide is it worth the risk of alcohol, really having them understand the risk taking when it comes to that. More importantly, like you can create some for yourself with your own group. All right. So lastly, now it's really your turn. So maybe during your meeting, when you are going through the program, you don't know where to start. A great place to start is our SADD National Communications Calendar. So this is something that we just updated really recently. So each month you can see from August through July, there's a theme for each of those months. And almost every week there's something particularly related to that theme, or there's something related to SADD's mission and vision for that week. So something you can do is, hey, maybe this is kind of like an example roadmap, and you can pick and choose the things that you want to do. So you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. This is something that is available on your on the SADD portal. More driver safety. And each month, one thing to work towards, and then you'll just have an ice. Hi everyone, I got kicked out for a second. Can everyone hear me? Sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but I got kicked out for a second. I'll just try to pick back up where I left off. But this is a really great tool to help you organize your year, and then you can just spend meetings working towards one big event each month, just depending on everyone's capacity. Again, it really depends on what your mission and vision is as a group, what your core values are, what's within your capacity. Maybe what you really want to focus on this month is just keeping a consistent community and talking about these issues very openly. Maybe you don't have big capacity to do hard campaigns that really try to reach out, but you really got to focus within, and that's totally okay. It's important not to compare what you do this year to years past, because every year is different for sure. But that's what our presentation is with regards to giving you like a really great foundation and vehicle to move forward this year. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to unmute yourself or let me know in the chat. It would be great if you're all able to evaluate kind of how we've been doing this past couple months with these trainings. If you enter this bit.ly link, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat as well. It'll be helpful for us to have this evaluation, for us to make sure that we're providing you with the best sort of programming and support. Yeah, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves or let us know in the chat. Otherwise, we'll be here to answer anything that you have. Yes, and if no one has any questions, which is totally okay, hopefully that means I did my job. There is one more workshop that we have next week. Okay, we got a question right here. So formal evaluation. So the link that I just sent in the chat, the bit.ly link, that will be the best way to evaluate. Thank you. But if you want to say in the comments too, it's totally fine. Next week we are going to be having our national SADD and SLC talk about their best tips and tricks. So they're going to dig a little bit deeper into what are the specific activities that you can be doing. What are the kind of little minutia that they've found help really their club succeed. Yeah, and it was a pleasure speaking to you all today. Hopefully this was useful and you kind of feel a little bit more comfortable diving back into, or maybe not diving back in, but dipping your feet back into SADD and providing these services for your students or for your peers. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm really happy that you're able to jump in and learn a lot. I know we kind of throw a lot at y'all in these 30 minutes, but hopefully 30 minutes is a good amount of time. Thank you, Shahana. Appreciate it, everybody. All right. Thank you, everybody. We will see you one more time next week for our tips and tricks with the SLC. Hope you all have a great rest of your afternoons. Take a break from your computer screens. It's a little hot today in California, but find a way to keep a little cool out there. Bye-bye, everyone.